The third strategic objective is to have strong representative industry structure that supports growth and profitability in the avocado industry. We talk about leadership, but leadership is not just leadership from the board to the industry. Leadership is everywhere. Leadership is about providing some direction. Leadership is in grower groups or in exporter groups. And it's the way we operate. We can all show leadership in terms of being part of taking the industry forward. We absolutely need effective communications. And again, these are communications everywhere. Neighbour to neighbour, grower to grower, grower to exporter, exporter to exporter, AGA to all the industry parties, our relationships with our own government, with the importing countries' governments. So that communication is something I've been harping on about, I think, since I started, and I will continue to do so. And it's two-way communication, and it's being effective. And it's actually also about the communication delivering valid information and actually sharing the right information to allow us to go forward. We have to have effective systems, part of the quality. We have to have good systems for exporting, good systems in market to handle and ripen avocados, good systems for communicating. Effective systems is required right across the value chain. I've talked already the strong cross-industry relationships. We need to develop those and maintain those. And they can also be shared. And the use of those relationships is in either discussing how we might go forward or actually using some of the knowledge to take the next step forward. And the disciplined application of best practice, again, has sometimes been put into a requirement at on-orchard level, but again, it's right across the value chain. We need to set the right way to do things and ensure that we are efficient and therefore profitable and sustainable in terms of how we operate across the value chain. And we've set some goals in the 5-year plan for this strategic objective. We do want a high response to the industry survey. I was disappointed to hear it was a 34% of growers responded in 2010 to the survey. We'll be doing another one in the next year, and I would like a better take-up or better response from growers on that. And we'd like to see an 80% response to say that AGA is adding value. Because if we're not, you should be telling us now, not waiting for a survey. We do need an industry risk plan, and this is not just a biosecurity risk plan. We need to better understand our competitors. When are Mexico, Chile and Peru likely to compete with us in the Southeast Asian markets? When is Australia likely to let other countries import into Australia? We need to really understand what the global situation is for avocados so we can make the most of timing opportunities to sell our avocados. We are here with a purpose in terms of getting your support as growers for the renewal of the commodity levy. I'll go through the process shortly, but we are seeking your support for a renewed commodity levy order for avocados. And another goal is to ensure that we have got those best practice guides developed, applied, reviewed and reported. I'd now like to take you through where we see the volume forecasts for the industry as this backs up the 5-year plan. We set a vision in 2008 for 12 million trays and 250 million FOB by 2015-16. It was a stretched target, and the board would like to review that vision in light of the new strategy. But first we need to review the hectare data that we're using to calculate our forecast volumes. We are asking for your help here. You put in your canopy hectares and the number of trees in your export registrations, and we are now using the information from the export registrations to build up as the basis for our volume forecasts. So can I just ask around the room, can you put your hand up if you're confident in your calculation of canopy hectares? Great, because we are using that information and we'll revise the numbers again after we've done the export registrations for this year, but it's good to see the confidence in those numbers. And I'm going to come back to the last 2 points when I've gone through the numbers. The volume forecast uses a number of assumptions. It does assume that the export registration hectare data is correct, and we have made some allowance for those who don't register in one season because of irregular bearing. We actually we calculate the yield for what we've called high achieving growers versus an average grower. So we're actually saying there are a number of growers who are achieving a yield that potentially isn't terribly profitable, but there are a number achieving a significantly higher yield. And on the basis that an average yield is probably not terribly profitable, we're assuming that those who are adding hectares or planting more trees are actually the high achievers in terms of a yield. We haven't made any variable, we haven't allowed a variable for a significant climatic condition or a significant frost, and we have assumed in the model that the impact of irregular bearing reduces over time. This was the forecast of volumes that we put up at the November board meeting last year. Looking from 2010-11 to 2017-18, so the 10-11 figures are actuals, the 11-12 figures were actually done at November last year, so they weren't the final figures. So the hectare information, 4,100 hectares up to 4,900 hectares, and this is the increases based on tree sales and the non-productive hectares that are becoming productive in the database. It's forecasting, the model's forecasting volumes growing from 3 million, this was actually 6 in the year we've just had, growing with an impact of irregular bearing lessening up to a total trays of 10.5 million. I've included here what we've calculated as a high achieving yield versus a standard yield. We've anticipated an increasing export pack out because of the programs being put in place, and that's forecasting a export volume going up to 7 million trays by 2017-18. So we will revise this model for the 2012-13 hectares and revise the forecasts, but this currently is what we're looking at in the 5-year plan.